school. Um, so what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of background from me, very short background here. I've been working in education for over 20 years. I started teaching English and drama in Stockport, moved to Tameside, to Cardiff, to Hampshire, and to Brighton and Hove, all as head of English, assistant head, deputy head, back up to then I went to work for East Sussex as an advisor, then back up to the Northwest, because I'm a bit of a Northwest girl, as a principal school improvement officer with Salford. I've also worked as an associate principal, so lots of different senior levels and middle level leadership. One of the reasons that I really wanted to start the subject leadership reviews and present them was because underneath the basis of evaluated as such is, how do we make a head teacher's, a senior leader's job easier? How can we let them do the job they came into the profession to do? And thinking about what it was like to be a head of English, which I absolutely loved, I did that in two different schools. I thought, well, what about the middle leaders who are absolutely crucial to a school? I was once on an interview where the head said to me, who are the most important people in the school? And, of course, you say the pupils, and he said middle level leaders, area leaders, subject leaders, primary or secondary, because they influence every which way. And as Sir John Jones says, the good news is middle level leaders can make a difference. The bad news is middle level leaders can make a difference. And it's absolutely right. But it's also about support and development in leadership skills, which bode well for a middle leader who wants to stay as a middle leader, as a subject leader, or whether they want to move on to senior level leadership roles. They are absolutely crucial people. So we put together the subject leadership reviews, which, yes, they do tackle what happens in Ofsted, but they also tackle, as in a deep dive, call it what you will, call it a review in school, whatever your area or your subject has in your school. It gives you a preparation, a confidence in what you know and being able to express that. So it is a leadership development tool. It's a support tool. And the reason behind it, or one of the things that we need to do, is to make sure that this is done with your senior leader, line manager, because also this provides a really good framework for line management. Line management is one of my deep passions, because effective line management is quite hard to find, but when it is found, it's just outstanding. And by line management, I don't mean appraisal, of course. I mean a one-to-one line management meeting between the area leader or even the member of a team of an area who's teaching English, say, or maths or whatever subject in a primary school, and their line manager, who will be the leader of that area or the head of faculty or head of subject in a secondary school. Everybody deserves a one-to-one line management meeting, in my view, because it's there to acknowledge your good practice, and it's also there to share the good practice and to acknowledge any developmental or training needs that you might have. So what I'm going to show you now is just a sample of the leadership section under the subject leaders. So we have, once you click onto it, we have a circle which says subject leader reviews, and these are 25 questions divided up into 4 categories, which include intent, implementation, and impact. And these are the leadership ones. So you'll see that it says and success of English on the end of that question mark. So if you are a maths area leader or an art area leader, whatever your subject area is, and for those of you in primary school, we can have people who are in charge of several different areas, you will click on to that subject, that area, and those questions will come up with the name of that subject. So every question is the same for people, because remember, this is a review. So these the kind of questions that you would be asked I have been also an Ofsted inspector. This is the kind of thing that we would go in on a deep dive. We would ask middle level leaders, subject area leaders, these kinds of questions. We would also expect that your internal reviews or your SIP might ask these kinds of questions, because this shows how well you know your subject area. Now, there's no judgment attached to this. This is what is a joy about this, in that this is for you and your line manager's eyes only. If you want to share it, that's completely up to you, but actually there is no judgment. What it helps you to do, if you look at that first one, where it's the third statement down that's been ticked, then it says there that an area of excellence underneath it has been identified and has been added to your self-evaluation report. So you just go down this and you think about you can do it actually without thinking about evidence, do a kind of, not a gut reaction, but an educated, professional knowledge that you have can be used to tick these questions. Now, once you start to do it in a little bit more detail, you can add under rich understanding any notes that you want to add. If you look at the one underneath there, curriculum planning, lesson visits, work scrutinies, that's been a possible area of development for your considerations being added to your self-evaluation report. So again, you can just tick that and you can write rich understanding underneath it, in agreement with your line manager. Now, where this fits in really well is with any internal reviews that you do. So you may well have a set of reviews every year. Who your SIP might come in to look at reading, they might come in to look at literacy, they could come in to look at science, whatever. Could be your senior leadership team. And these are the kind of questions that you should be being asked. So are you able to answer that? It is for deep dives, it is for reviews, but it's also for maybe lesson drop-ins, things like that, anything where you might be asked this kind of question. When Ofsted go in, of course, we go in and we ask a group of middle leaders, as well as individual ones on a deep dive. So that prepares you well for that. So the second one, this is just under implementation, just samples of questions. So are there systems in place to support inexperienced or non-specialist teachers in English? So again, you would be expected to have this on your plan somewhere if it's not already in place. So this is just like a health check, if you like, on your subject, in your area that you lead. So moving on. So once we fill that in, I'd just like to draw your attention to this. This is the subject leadership review under leadership. And under the area of excellence, this is one where, yeah, there is a program of reviews between 1 and 3 per year according to needs. So you may only have one review done by a SIP or your senior leadership team. You may not need more than that, but if you need more than that, then the option is there. So you've ticked that and it's come out as an area of excellence. Now the notes which are slightly paler underneath are notes that you've put in. So when you produce this, any notes that you've written in under richer understanding comes with the report for you. So you have there areas of excellence, areas of strength. We've gone for excellence and areas of strength because there's a good and there's an outstanding if you want to stick to that terminology, but I just like the idea of saying, actually, we do this really well. In teaching, we're not great, are we, at saying what we do well. We're very good at saying what we don't do well, but we're not so good at saying what we do well. And this kind of forces you down that line. Because whenever, I ask a teacher, you know that they've done a brilliant job. And so what is it you've done here that has made those pupils learn so well? They'll slip so easily into, well, actually, what I didn't do was this. You have to say, no, actually, tell me what was really good about that. What were your skills that you used to withdraw, to get the knowledge and the understanding from those pupils? How did you do it? And so it does force you to look at that, which is great. The areas for development there. And it actually gives you, it actually gives you the what you need to do to improve that. Now, if you want to add notes underneath that as well, you can as well. So you can make this as bespoke as you want to. But all these questions have been run by existing Ofsted inspectors, very, very good Ofsted inspectors. And schools, we're trialing them now in lots of different schools who are using them, and we're getting feedback on it. And these, I don't think there's a question there that you wouldn't be asked, or it's a selection of questions that you may well be asked. So if we move on to the evidence locker, you've a space where you can put any evidence to back up your points as to why you're good at this, or why you're excellent at this, or why you have an area for development, or why you really have to move on this and quite quickly. So that's all there for you as well. You can add that evidence in. The second section we did, so that section there really is very similar, if not the same, as the majority of evaluated as a tool. That's set up with the criteria that you can judge and you can put notes in as well. So then we went for a section on helpful questions. And you can see there's helpful questions for the curriculum leaders themselves, for teachers, for learners, and for work scrutiny. So if then we look at one for the curriculum, 2 key points to remember would be the curriculum is the progression model and progress is knowing more and remembering more. Always, always keep this in your head, because that's what Ofsted look for, that's what we should be looking for. So the curriculum on there, so can you talk me through how you design the curriculum in this subject? And the reason we put a confidence gap in here is because it's how you feel and what you feel you know at this time. If you are a new head of department, a new area leader, you may need to say, actually, I didn't design this curriculum, but I need to know exactly where we are in order to improve it. So you may there tick amber, which is developing confidence. So underneath it, you can practice your answer to this. What will you do to embed and strengthen your confidence in this area? So how do you get better? So you might need to study and evaluate the curriculum that you've got in this subject in order to know whether you want to change things or not. If you're red, because you just really feel I'm struggling with this, then you can just tick the red one, be very honest. Again, nobody sees, it's not judgmental. This is just the state that you feel that you are in with your knowledge of the design, of the curriculum design, and curriculum is all, isn't it? So if you tick the green, confidence is strong, that will be an indicator that actually you are in a very good position to share your experience with somebody who perhaps isn't quite so confident. And then you would have to talk about, well, how do I maintain that standard? How do I, because as we all know, it's one thing to get to good. How do you maintain it? How do you sustain it? How do you get to outstanding? So if you're green and your confidence is strong, how do you sustain that? How do you maintain it? And how do you share it? The red confidence gap is, who can you go to who is really good at this? And I have to say that your school will be able to look across all subject areas, all areas in a primary school, whatever, and see, well, where is the green? Where is the confidence? Yeah, we can see what they're going to do about it to maintain it. Who can we share that with? Well, actually, somebody in science is not quite there yet. So let's do some sharing, and vice versa for somebody in science might be brilliant at another question. So you can share that. So if we move on now to what training do you access to help you lead your department effectively? That should be department or area. And again, red confidence here. What will you do to establish confidence in this area? So you can always write notes underneath this and practice your answer if it's helpful. And so what you do is you go through this, you get a report like this, and you can see where the RAG is, where the confidence is. How confident are you in answering these questions? And this is one for learners, actually. And I saw you learning about X in a lesson. Tell me a little about it. Green, confidence is strong, because you know, as a head of area, that your pupils overall, and we all have pupils who deliberately don't necessarily answer in the way you want them to, but you know that you have, it's actually a check for the teacher as well, that you can actually think, have I taught this so that the pupils can talk about it, can tell me a little bit about it? So it's all about that as well. So this is what comes up at the end. Green, confidence is strong. How does previous content support subsequent learning? And that's a maintain and sharing confidence, same as with developing confidence, and the red confidence gaps. So you can put the actions underneath this if you want to, so you have an overview of where you feel confident or not, or where you need to build it up. We then thought, well, reading is absolutely at the forefront, as well as a few other things with Ofsted, and rightly so. So we divided it obviously between primary and secondary, and this is based on the questions that you will be asked about reading, whether it's Ofsted, whether it's your line manager, whether it's your senior team, whether it's your SIP. And it's again, is the confidence gap. So again, if you just, I meant to show you, mention this earlier, but if you look at the one underneath it, our staff trained in delivering the systemic synthetic phonics teaching program, and you've got a target date, and you can put in, so you can put in milestones for when you need to sort this out, when you know how you're going to embed it, when, by when. I'm a great one for milestones as well. And then we did one for Key Stage 3 to Key Stage 4. Because, and again, I wanted to make sure that we got Key Stage 4 in there. Reading doesn't just disappear, nor should it. And there are a lot of schools who continue to do a lot for their Key Stage 4 readers. You know, if you're a poor reader in Key Stage 3, there are some gaps to make up to make sure, but all too often those gaps are not quite made up. So we need to make sure it continues into Key Stage 4 as well. So again, it's done on confidence gaps. I'm going to stop there just to see if anybody would like to ask me a question online now, or ask me to repeat something, or talk to you about anything, the reasoning behind any of the questions. Is there anybody who wants to ask anything?
Yeah, thanks, Jan. So I, as a former head of geography, I know that this is a tool that would have been really useful to me in the secondary sector. And I'm just wondering if you could share with everyone what the benefits of doing the review this way are, because I know when I was head of geography, I had loads of pieces of paper, I had lesson observations, book scrutinies, work scrutinies, and I hate the word scrutiny. So I'm just wondering, what are the benefits of doing it in this way?
Yeah, I think it's all in one place. This is one of the benefits. You may well have a development plan already written, and that's fine, but you can cut and paste any of your actions from this review into your development plan. Yeah. And you can then prioritize those using your professional judgment on that, and in discussion with your line manager. Any actions that you pull from this forms your agenda with your line manager for those meetings. So how are we doing on that? So it focuses, I think the subject leadership reviews focus you rather than scattergunning, because I know that I found it very easy to scattergun when I was head of English. And what you really want to do is to concentrate on the things that need to move now, maybe middle term planning, long-term planning, and make sure you focus on those things. And it may be CPD, it informs CPD needs. So if you have, if your teachers within your area, within your subject, within your primary area, bearing in mind that in primary schools they teach everything.
Yeah.
If some people are not quite as confident and where they need to be, then that may indicate a whole school development issue,
Yeah.
development need. It means that everything is in one place and it's very focused, and you're not going to be asked any surprise questions. We don't think from Ofsted or from the reviews that you do in school automatically. So it stops you having bits of papers everywhere.
Yeah.
It gives you your line management, and that line management that you do with your senior line manager is then modelled for you to do with members of your team.
Fab, thank
okay?
you very much. Yeah, brilliant, thank you. And does anyone else have any questions? I'm just looking, feel free to type them in the chat or just to unmute and ask away. I guess one of my other questions, just while we give everyone a chance to ask if they would like to, was what would you say, and it's a difficult one, but what are the 3 key questions that you think would be asked during a deep dive?
During a deep dive, yeah. Well, they will ask you about your curriculum design, without a doubt. What your focus is, where the sequencing is. There's a lot of things linked to the curriculum. Curriculum is all. Certainly, they will want to know, why have you come to a decision about the curriculum that you deliver? And how do you know it's working? How do you evaluate it? How is it monitored? So monitoring, evaluation, and acting on that, you need to be able to show Ofsted in a deep dive that it is being evaluated. Anything to do with non-specialist teachers, if you have a number of those, underperforming teachers, what is the support there for them? What is the training available? And this is where your line management, you can talk about line management and how this fits into a whole school view as well. Strengths, they will want to know about the strengths.
Yeah, we've had another question to come in. Two actually. How does this help with consistency across middle leaders? I know when I was a middle leader, you can see the inconsistencies across departments straight away, and you can also see the inconsistencies sometimes with line managers. So how does this help with it?
Well, I think because it creates a format and an agenda for a line management. So, basically senior leaders model line management in the perfect world, and it's the same. It's the same. So you have the same things on the agenda, and you follow actions. So you set actions for the next meeting, and you set milestones, and you review those. That should be the first thing you do in a line management meeting. So if it gives a format, it's very difficult to come off that format. And it means that you can focus on the things that you need and what impacts on the whole school and what impacts on the individual department and individual members of staff as well. So I think it's for line management, which, as I said earlier, is just, when it works well, I've never come across an outstanding school that doesn't have outstanding line management, and it's about allowing people, it's a two-way, it's a dialogue between two people. It's recorded, it's agreed, and the best line management gives the best support, gives the best acknowledgement, and gives the best practice sharing. So
I think that's one of the really nice things about the review, is that you do feel like it's consistent and you do feel like you're working with your line manager. We've had another question, which is, where have these questions come from that are in the review?
Right, okay. Well, we wrote these questions a bit like Evaluated, based on, although we're not doing this for Ofsted, we don't do anything for Ofsted, we do it because it's the right thing, but we can't ignore the fact that Ofsted are there. They are, in my words, a necessary evil. It's a necessary evil to deal with them. So why not be as well prepared as possible? So with the questions, I've scoured the framework and any updates. I've spoken to existing Ofsted inspectors. I've used my experience as an Ofsted inspector, actually doing deep dives and working out, well, actually seeing some subject leaders or area leaders talk really articulately about what happens in their department, and others who may be new or inexperienced, not so. And I thought, where has the support been in the background for these people who could be absolutely brilliant given the knowledge that they need in order to answer the questions. So the questions have come directly from Ofsted, directly from reviews, because I do a lot of reviews in schools, subject leadership reviews and leadership reviews for senior leadership. And I know how you've got to encourage subject leaders to speak and be able to feel free to speak what they need to say, but also the relationship between the line manager and the subject or area leader is crucial, because everything's based on communication in this world, effective or not. And it's got to be a really effective relationship, a trust based on trust, which is why I say you can't see other people's unless you want them to see it. It just gives an overview. So
wonderful. Okay. Well, I just thought I would ask one final question, which is, for anyone who may be experiencing a deep dive within the next few weeks, what would your best piece of advice be?
I would have a look at these subject leadership reviews. I really would. And if anybody needs a demo, you just contact us and you can have a demo and you can have a look. I mean, I've just shown you a fraction of it, but it does not take that long to complete. And it gives you an overview, and you can always go back and change it and you can update it. But it just gives you a bit of some confidence in what you know very well and be able to articulate that. And it gives you an idea of, because nobody's perfect, we've all got, we can all list our things that we need to be better at. But it gives you something to work on as well. And so
Well, that sounds like wonderful advice to me. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining our webinar. It's been an absolute pleasure. We have recorded it, so you will be able to get a copy if you would like. And thank you very much. Thank you, Jan, as well.
Delighted. Nice to see you all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.